Okay, so for anyone who hasn't watched my previous videos with Ember, Ember is a 5-year-old Mustang. He was rounded up at the end of 2024 from Twin Peaks, California. He has not been an easy start. I've never worked with a Mustang before, only young horses, like domesticated. And several trainers have said to me he's maybe one of the trickiest Mustangs they have come across. That being said, I have not had anyone else work with him. I've had someone who I trust kind of like oversee what I'm doing to just make sure we're kind of on the right tracks, but I am the only person that's worked with him. Because yeah, I'm going to take a bit of credit for that because he has been. But he's become a really rewarding horse. He's super intelligent, he's very willing and very loving, but it has taken 5 months of hard work being here every single day to kind of find that in his personality. So today we're going to be filming like an intro to backing video. This is exactly what I would do with any horse, so even if they were domesticated or had come from the wild. So we start with the groundwork that prepares them for backing. We then start with the saddle work, and then I'll show some exercises that I do to prepare them to take a rider. And just I kind of want to start the video by saying he was really tricky. So if you have a Mustang yourself and you're wondering, you know, is this going to get better? It does get better. They just take a lot of patience and a lot of like kind of once you give them your heart, they'll give you yours kind of thing. And they're worth it. So stick it out and you will end up with a really cool horse. So yeah, we're going to show you what we've been doing here with Mr. Ember, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so just starting this session by letting him walk round. I walk round with him. I don't lunge in the traditional way, and so I wouldn't call this lunging him. Like, I just refer to all of this as groundwork. When he's at the walk, I don't keep any tension in the rope. I don't want it dragging on the ground, but I also don't have any tension because the only time you want tension in the rope is if you're actually asking something. So just like a nice relaxed rope here. When I first got him, and a lot of Mustangs from what I've seen online are like this, he'd hold his head up really high above the wither and have like a really rigid neck muscle. So we spent a lot of time encouraging the neck down. And so how I would do that would be just to put a bit of tension on the line, and then I kind of relax the line down, and he should start to drop. The thing is, he's already got his head in the carriage I want it, which is why it's not really working. But you basically just want to pull the head in a little bit and then give them some slack. And then when he puts his nose, this will be easier to show in the trot because he's still learning it in the trot. But when the nose hits the soil like that, there we go, I bring him in to rest and put the rope on the ground. And that's just a cue to him. You can see he's processing that there. That's what I want. Like, if you relax your neck and your back and you put your nose to the soil, you can have a break. I don't have anything for you right now. So yeah, just doing a lot of that in the walk, both directions. So there's a lot of other things I do, but it would take a million videos to go through it all, but just to kind of run through some. So when they're walking around like this, I like to kind of have the whip here and I like to swing it over his neck, just so he knows, like, if I'm not reacting and my body language isn't changing, this going over him really doesn't mean anything at all. And he knows that from my body language. And it's really helpful. And then see there, he got a little upset because it kind of tangled up in his back legs. And so I just ask him to come back for the walk, because I need him to know if we're out trail riding and maybe like some shrubs get caught in his feet or whatever, that he doesn't need to react or panic, and it just makes him a little bit more aware of his body. So I rub it on the belly, the back legs, and I want him to stay in the walk. If he were to break into the trot, I would just wiggle the line and be like, no, you don't need to react. We're literally just desensitizing here. And then another exercise that's nice to do is I'm going to back myself up here. I'm going to ask him to walk towards me, and then I'm going to send him off in the other direction. And this exercise is good for multiple reasons. Reason one, and the main reason being, when you first get any horse, but particularly I've noticed with a Mustang, when they change where you are in their eye, it can be extremely upsetting for them and a bit nerve-wracking. So putting in a lot of changes of direction can really help them kind of process you from both eyes and desensitize them on both sides. Another reason the constant changes of direction are good is also because, I'll show here when we get to a wider bit, if I back up here, it just teaches him to move his shoulder away from me. So I'm going to ask, and here he's just got a little confused. So I go at the shoulder. I'm actually quite glad he did that. And it just helps you gain a little bit of control of the shoulder, and to say, hey, when I move towards your shoulder, I don't mean go faster, but I do want you to move that shoulder away from me. So it's just a good way of setting some, there, he reacted really nicely to that. It's a good way of setting some spatial awareness boundaries. Even though he's an extremely nervous horse and he was a bit scared of me at the start, it still doesn't excuse him for like invading my personal space. You know, you want to keep things safe, and so even if they are nervous, you should still be very consistent with the fact that you know, want them to respect your bubble. Good boy. And I was a little wary of doing this at the start because he didn't have a lot of draw, he didn't always want to come to me, but from doing it with him, I've realized that demanding a little bit of respect with the shoulder there has not damaged our relationship or anything like that. In fact, it's just made him a more confident horse because he knows what my boundaries are. And so he sees me as like a reliable person and not someone that is like maybe confusing him by maybe one day saying, hey, don't come into my personal space. And then the next day being like, oh, I don't mind if you want to come in. So I just want to get that a little smoother. He's just a little wary today of turning to that side. Good boy. That's nice. So that side's good. I just want to get a little smoother on this side, so I'm going to put a bit more tension in the line and send him. Oh, come. Good boy, and we'll do one more, just because I want to get that a little smoother. Good boy. So I'm going to back up. I'm going to put some energy there. There we go. Good boy. And then I'm going to look at his hind and bring him in, put the rope to the ground, and I'm just going to let him settle there for a second. He might have a lick and chew, he might puff out, and just let him process what we've done. And I also thought it was worth, if you see him backing up, it's because obviously he's still got a little bit of wariness from strangers. Another really good thing to do is, I noticed with him, he was initially a lot more comfortable with the stick than my hand because his fear is of humans. So when I was starting to desensitize him, I would do all of this with the whip, but it's also really helpful to kind of swing above them like this. You see he's like gaining awareness, and I don't want him to be dead to this, but I don't want him to react to it. Hey buddy. Because just kind of floating something above them really helps with when you're going to get on, because you'll be speaking and existing above them, and so it's good to kind of start that desensitization from that point of view. So I'll just do that again. Again, this is a weird one because obviously it makes such a strange sound. And he is wary and he's thinking about it, but he's trusting that it's okay. Good boy. And obviously, I may not always do it in all these video clips, but everything you do on one side, you want to do on the other. And obviously like all down the face and all of that. And then on the legs and in between the legs and all those things. So again, what I'm showing you here is not the start of his training. We have been doing this particular exercise probably for about a month now. But when I ask him to move up to trot, I want it to be very subtle. I want him to constantly be reading my body language. I don't ever think there's any need to like smack the whip and make a big fuss about them going into trot. So I'll show you here. I'm just going to very subtly lift my body language, and then he goes straight into trot. And it needs to be, in my opinion, as quiet as that. You shouldn't have to make it loud to get a reaction. Good boy. And so I've just been working on getting a nice working trot from him that's nice and steady and relaxed. I'd like to see that head drop a bit. So I'm just going to put some tension on the line. Good. Ho. And when he dropped right down to the soil there, I brought him back to walk, just so he knows, like, yes, that was the correct thing. You can have a little rest. And I've been doing a lot of this because when I got him, his muscles in his neck, I mean, they still are, but were completely rigid. The sort of like slightly floppy bit under his neck that you see did not exist. So we've been doing a lot of this to loosen the back up and start to kind of build up the correct muscles. I don't think there's any point getting on a horse that doesn't even have like the correct muscles to carry you. So this is really important stuff. And so I'll raise my body language again. Good boy. And this time when he takes his head to the soil, I might ask him to hold that for a bit. Good. Just so that he can really find comfort in it's nicer to hold your head low than it is to kind of be rigid. Good. Ho. So yeah, as he's going around in the trot, I'm just doing the whip the same way. I don't want to see any change in the pace. Good boy. And then good boy. So this trot to canter is new to Ember. We've been practicing, I'd say, for 2 weeks. When we first did it, he actually honestly did not know what canter was. And then when he finally got it, he had no idea the order of which his legs are going to go in. I think it's because someone had said to me in the wild, obviously they only run when there's danger. So I think he was a little confused as to why I would want him to run when there's no danger. So it's been a lot of work to work on this transition. So I'm going to show you where we're at now and kind of how I'm teaching it. So I'm going to ask for that trot. And I've figured out from obviously just working with him that when I ask for the canter, he feels a little bit more secure if I have the line a little tighter. He seems to just kind of like that support and like the feel that I'm at the end. So I'm going to ask for the canter by lifting my body language. And the minute he gives me that transition, I'm going to ask him to stop. And you can see he's licking and chewing. The reason I'm doing that is because he did not know how to go from a trot to a canter when we first started. And so I wanted to immediately reward that transition to canter so that he knows when I lift my body language, when he's already in trot, canter is the correct answer. So I'm just going to let him rest there for a second. I'm going to ask him to walk on now. Again, when I was first teaching this, I would give him much longer breaks because obviously you could just see how stressed he was. But as I said, we've been doing this not every day, but maybe every other day for the last 2 weeks. So he's a lot more, he knows now that he's not running because there's danger. So no need for such a big break. So good boy, I'm gonna ask. Good boy. And I always want him to take the canter from a nice trot, not from a rushed trot. Good boy. And there he just picked up the wrong legs. That's fine, we're just going to come back to a good trot. I need to give him a bit more support on this rope. And ask again. Yep. And he's rushing there, he's not really understood, and I don't think my cue was the best. So we're going to ask again. And this is just real life, it doesn't always look perfect. So I'm going to be bigger with my ask. Good. And just a little steady. And as you can see, there's a lot of uncertainty still in it, but it's nice to see it live, like this is not a finished product. And up. Oh. And I really liked that one, so I'm gonna ask him to stay in his trot, ho, and then come to rest. Because that was a really nice transition for him. Again, we're talking about a horse that's never been taught a trot canter transition, so it might not look amazing to a lot of people, but from what I know he can do, that was great. I've done our groundwork, and this would be, so he's seen all of this before. He has worn a saddle before, I'd say about 5 times now. Before I ever do this, I would work with a roller, so the little lunging rollers, it just gets them used to having something around the belly. But as he's still learning, I'll always like show him the pad first and like wipe the pad over him. And obviously when you first start out doing this, I recommend holding them and things like that. But you just want the pad to go everywhere so he knows it's not a threat. Bring it back to his nose. Good boy, and take away. And again, I'm kind of speeding through this because he has done this exercise now, but if it was the first time he was doing it, I would not be speeding through this. And same thing, I'm just gonna wipe it all over him. I've never actually wrapped it around his neck, so that's a good practice. So it's good for him to kind of feel all of that. Good boy. I'm just gonna hold this rope here because I can see that because I wrapped it around his neck, he's just got a little startled. So we're just gonna do a lot of this. So Ember can have a tendency when he's unsure to get a bit frozen, and I think a lot of horses can. So I feel like he's kind of freezing up on me here a bit, so I'm just going to walk him on. Good boy. And carry on doing it. And I feel like you always want to watch out for them freezing up because it's usually an indicator that they will at some point explode, which you also don't want. Good boy. And come on. So I just like to keep him moving his feet so he kind of knows we're not freezing up today. Good boy. Yeah. Good. It's okay. And he is a little bit more sensitive on this side. Most horses have a side where they are, and so you just want to make sure you've got the rope when they're being nervy like this, you've got the rope enough that should he run off or want to kick, you can pull the head towards you and get the hind end out the way. And then once I feel like he's being calm again, I'll drop that rope again just to kind of show him, you know, hey, I'm cool if you're cool kind of thing. Good boy. So I feel like he's still a little frozen. Good boy. So now I'm going to drop his rope, have a little faith in him. Good. And then take that away and let him have a second. You can see he's licking and chewing. And this is where it's really important, I think, before you ever back your horse, to make sure they're like happy being groomed and they're happy with you running your hands all over their body. And even in, so this is his tickly area, so I will hold this, but even like touching the flank and areas like this, because you want them to have a good awareness of their body before you ever get on their back. Good boy. Just do the same on the other side. Good. Good boy. Now, before I completely tack him up, I have learned a new exercise off of someone I have been working with. And I've never done this before with domestic horses. One, I just didn't know about it, and two, I'd known them basically since birth, so they really didn't see me as a threat at all. But with Ember, we've started doing this exercise. So I first kind of hug him from a standstill on the neck, good boy, and then hug him at the belly, because this kind of replicates when I'm sat on him, my legs being like wrapped around his body. So like, don't be afraid to like really lean in there. And there's really no need to do it with the butt. I just give that a tap. And then the same on this side, like really hugging him here. And the first time I did this, he was fine at the standstill, but very nervous at the walk. I'll show you the walk now, but you can see why it's so important to get them okay with this before you get on. Then I want to do is I want him to be okay with me doing that at the walk. So I start here at the neck, just a little easier for him to understand. So I'm gonna ask him to walk on. Walk on, Ember. And I'm just walking here at the neck. So for him, this is a little strange because I'm not leading him like I would if I was just leading him to the pen. I'm sat back a bit, so he's kind of like, you can see he's a little tense. He's like figuring this out. So I'm gonna ask him to whoa, ho, and I'm gonna stay with him, and then I'm gonna move away and drop the rope so he knows that that was correct. And we're still working on this exercise. Like I said, like he is not a finished product right now. So this is a little bit of real time. So I'm gonna just try that exercise again at the neck. So asking him to walk on and just chilling here at the neck. So he's starting to get used to me being in a slightly different part of his eyesight. Easy. And if he wants to circle tight around me, I'm not blocking that, because at the minute I just want him to be comfortable with me being here. So I'm not going to be picky about where he chooses to go. Good boy. Oh. Good. So as you can see, he's still nervous about that, and it's something we really need to work on. But it's a really good exercise that he learns to accept me being in a different kind of area of his eye line. And again, like I said, every horse I have backed, I have never done that and never had any issues. So who's to say if I would have problems if I didn't do that? However, because of his background and his nervousness and he's less familiar with humans, I think it's a really great exercise to do. So now I'm gonna ask him for it like right back here at his belly. Walk on. And I'm really leaning into him. And I'm okay if he just circles. Oh. And I'm really hugging him here, really got my hip in him. And then I move away. And it's just really good for him to kind of feel a little bit of tension around his belly as he walks, because that will be my legs. So we'll try it one more time on this side, and then, believe it or not, this is actually his good side. His other side is his much more spooky side. So I'm really hugging him. You've got your hip right into his ribs, really hugging him and asking him to walk on. Good boy, walk on. Nice. Good. That's it. Good boy. And ho. So as you can see at the minute, it's messy because obviously it's difficult as well, because it's not like I have a bridle on him. I have one rope which is naturally pulling him to the left, but I like that he's allowing me to lean into his body whilst we're walking. So he's just going to have a lick and chew about that, and then we're going to do the other side. Right, so now we're going to do it on the other side, exact same thing. So not yet, darling. Not yet. Ho. So just holding on to his neck and walking on. Good boy. Walk on. Good job. Steady. Steady. And if he moves away from me, I've got a chunk of mane, so I'm just kind of holding on and going with him. Oh, good boy. So I'm not letting him move away from that contact. Good boy. He kind of will then learn that when he comes to a halt and he's done it calmly, I'll obviously let go, and then he gets this rest period. Do it one more time at the neck, and then I'll do the belly the same, and then we can move on to the saddle. Good boy. Walk on. Good. Good boy. And oh. Oh. Good boy. I really liked that. And so that's just a little something we're doing each time. Well, we were doing it every day, even if we're not doing saddle work, just to get him really comfortable. Do you see Felina? She's your friend. with having pressure around him. So we've done all of our groundwork, so we can check that off. We've done some desensitization and body work and work with pressure. So now we are going to tack him up. So you've already seen this. Good boy. There we go. And then just because obviously he's still learning, you just want to always just have a little quick check-in with them for their stress levels, make sure they're not freezing up. It's very obvious when a horse is in discomfort when they're loud about it, but it's the ones like him that aren't loud about it, that kind of internalize. I think you have to watch more because you kind of don't know when they're going to have a moment. At the minute, the only moment he's having is licking carrot off my hand. So like I said, he has worn this saddle now about 5 or 6 times maybe. So this isn't unfamiliar to him, but I will say the first time I put it on, there was literally no reaction whatsoever. And then the first time I put the stirrups down and everything, he has not reacted. Most of the horses I have backed do kind of have a bucking session. He has not had that. He does not really seem that bothered by the saddle, but it doesn't mean I don't still give him a moment to assess it. I also recommend, yes, this saddle doesn't fit him perfectly, but it fits him pretty well. You don't want to start backing a horse with a saddle that doesn't fit at all because they're just going to associate it with pain. So as much as it might be tempting to just use some old thing you've got hanging around, I would make sure that it does actually fit. The reason he's licking my hand is I also use a lot of positive reinforcement during this stage with food and things, because obviously when they're chewing it helps them relax, and I just want them to kind of fully associate the saddle with like all good things. And again, the reason I recommend you always do a roller before a saddle is this part can be really alarming to them. So even now, because he's still a youngster and he's still new, before I grab the girth, I give his little belly a scratch and I give the elbow a scratch so he knows I'm down there and it's not going to come as a great big surprise. Good boy. Oh, unfortunately we've put on a few pounds, so we're going to have to loosen on this. So, if this was your first time saddling up, I would recommend you walk them off like this instead of leading them, because a lot of horses might jump forward, like just with the shock of like the girth being tight and things like that. Again, he's done this, I'm just kind of demonstrating what I would do if I hadn't done this before. And just repeating some of those groundwork exercises, so changing direction, all little things like that. It also lets kind of the girth settle a bit so I can see if it needs tightening or readjusting. So I'm going to bring him in. Thank you, Ember. And I'm just going to have a little feel, make sure everything's okay. So I'm going to send Ember out here, let him have a little walk and a feel. Good boy. And then I'm just going to ask him to trot on. He's kind of gone to sleep a little bit. And exact same requests as I would. He is very sleepy. As I would if he wasn't wearing a saddle. So looking for that neck to be low. Oh, and when the neck is low, rewarding. And asking him to come off soft cues, which again is, he's struggling a little bit now, he's getting a bit more tired. So looking for that neck to soften. Very nice, Ember. Oh. In these quiet hours, I feel at ease. Life's little magic in moments like these. I find the magic in the everyday, in the sweetest steps, times. So now we've popped the stirrups down, because obviously stirrups flapping is going to be up, a very different sensation. The noise, the flapping, the kind of like hitting of the irons against his side. Obviously you'd hope no one would ever ride him with floppy irons going on, but you do want to prepare him for if like the rider lost a stirrup or something like that. So just, again, I want him to drop his neck. Oh, good boy. And I'll get him to do that on the other side. And I purposely have the stirrups at quite a long length because I do really want them to be swinging at his sides, so he is really feeling them. Steady, Ember. Oh. Okay, so even if I'm not getting on, you want to have a hat on because obviously anything you're going to be practicing, you want to make sure that you're prepared if you do end up getting on. So I kind of start with, he's looking for a carrot now. Oh. So I kind of start with just really smacking the stirrup leathers down. There's no carrot. Good boy. So just doing a bit of that on both sides. Oh. I'm just trying to make as much fuss as possible, really. Good boy. And obviously prior to this, even when, even I'd say 2 months into having him, something that's really great to just start from the offset, even before you're, no carrots, even before you're anywhere near backing, is just jumping up and down next to them to kind of mimic that movement of getting on. As you can see, he's very chill. I've been doing this for a long time with him, just the jumping up and down bit. Good boy. And so I would never get on a horse from the ground because it's really bad for their backs. But when you're teaching them to be backed, I think it is really valuable for the purpose of just teaching them about someone coming on and the weight shift, but also, my throat's drying out. But also it's just a little easier to kind of get away from the situation if something goes wrong. But this, I would not usually get on him from the ground. So just want to put my, actually not very flexible in this, so. And drop the stirrup leather right down because I'm not very flexible. Put a foot in and I'm just going to bounce here on the floor and away. And obviously when I first started doing this, he'd be stressed. So you do lots of breaks, but he's kind of getting used to it now. So I go foot in. We do that and we do it on both sides, even though I would never get on from this side. I just want him to be used to me working on both sides. Oh my God, I'm even less flexible on this leg. And it's just a good way to get him used to like me kind of leaning into him. So I'm also going to kind of push into him a bit with my knees. And then we'll move the party over to the mounting block. Getting them to stand for the mounting block is a whole other video. So I'll save that for another time. So now I have him at the mounting block. I'm gonna come up here. And again, he's still kind of getting used to me kind of being above him. So I'm not worried if he gets a little startled this first time. I'm just gonna give him a rub. Good boy. Good boy. There we go. And again, like, yes, it's not good he's moving away from the mounting block, but as I said, training them for the mounting block is something else entirely, and I am doing it alongside the backing, but I'm not going to nitpick him about that today. You know, he is only a baby, there's only so much I can kind of pick on him about at one time. So just feeling that pressure there. Good. Good boy. And I like that he's leaning in to check me out. There we go. Good boy. So then I'm going to do a lie across him. Like this, hence the hat. And I'm going to rub his shoulder on this side and let that rope drop. Good boy. And he's got my full weight here. And I'm patting where my leg would go. And then I'm coming back down. And I really liked that. So again, I am going to reward that with a little bit of positive reinforcement just to bring those stress levels down. Making sure I've got a good hold of my rope so I could pull him left if I needed to. If things went south, pull left. I'm going to put the stirrup in and just holding here with my weight and just allowing him to accept that I'm up here, scratching the shoulder and back down. Good boy. And up again. I'm really kind of playing around with my weight here. Scratch the shoulder and back down. And I want to put the stirrup up because it's way too long. So just hanging my leg over him like this. So he's starting to kind of feel what it's like to have another part of me on the other side. Good boy. Sugar falls in, I stir it slow, let the calm begin. In these quiet hours I feel at ease, like simple magic in moments like these.